The gentleman from Colonial Heights, Mr. Cox.
Mr. Speaker, point of personal privilege.
Gentleman may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I see the other side has started the Medicaid debate, so I will certainly continue it. And that is, who are we kidding? That's the biggest issue in front of us today. You know, it's interesting. I've listened to all the speeches very carefully, and we've been called all kinds of things. I think the biggest one is we're the party of no. So if you're philosophically against something that you really don't think is good for the people of Virginia, then you're just a party of no. So I want to address that one first, because I would say this has been the party of ideas almost exclusively for the last 3 or 4 years. And I'm going to give you a laundry list and remind you of what those are. This year, SOL reform came out of this caucus, and it was very responsible SOL reform. I've told everyone, obviously, I've taught for 30 years, and I came in when there were no standards whatsoever. And I can remember when the teacher sitting next to me was doing an American history survey course and never got past the Civil War because that was his love. Well, unfortunately, when those kids got to college, they didn't know very much about American history. And so what we did was we did a very balanced approach where we cut out 5 SOL tests in the middle schools. We also put an emphasis on critical thinking skills. But here's what we understand. We understand the pendulum was too far at one point. You can go too far at this point. So we're really trying to create that balance. And under the leadership of Tag Reese and Steve Landis, I think we did that. Ethics reform. We knew that was a big issue. And we sat down, obviously working across the aisle with Delegate Gilbert, and came up, I think, with a very comprehensive package, a very tough package to get through when we have a part-time legislature. Sexual and domestic violence prevention, a tremendously big issue. And then basically, if you look at this budget, which was very difficult, Chairman Jones kept that as a priority, and there's still money in there for something I think is very important. And I can go on and on. If you look back in 2011, VRS reform, which really is going to make that system solvent for all state employees, Republican initiative. 2011, the top jobs legislation, which reformed higher ed. And let's get to this year's budget. It was tough. We found that we were about $1.5 billion short. And we've heard so much in this chamber, you know, about government doing things for people. But I will tell you, one of the very reasons why we're $1.5 billion short is all non-withholding. You can almost ask anyone, why is that so? And it's frankly because of the president's tax policies, both on capital gains and health reform. And so those government policies have consequences for K-12, higher ed, and all those other various things. But we came out of that budgeting process with priorities. And if you look at the budget, which was mainly signed, you have re-benchmarking for K-12 as a priority, mental health as a priority, and of course, as I mentioned, sexual and domestic violence. But let me get to Medicaid expansion. I'm really glad to have the folks down because I think it is good to hear both sides of the debate. You know, we get this picture that if you just expand Medicaid, it's a gold-plated program, everyone's going to be served, it's nirvana, it's utopia, and everything's going to be better. But that's just not what the reality of what that program has produced for years and years and years. The current program covers about 1 million people, 1,600% growth over 30 years, 21% of all budgeting growing, 8% growth annually. 1/3 of the doctors don't even take Medicaid. And Attorney General Cuccinelli recovered at least $200 million worth of Medicaid fraud claims. So now you're going to expand a broken system. And just intuitively, that's just a very bad idea when you haven't even reformed a broken system. But here was the carrot, 100% free money, as if that just falls from the sky. It is the people of both Virginia and the United States that work extremely hard for that money. You know, I learned something a long time ago. You know, I trust my judgment to some degree, but when I'm trying to make decisions for other people in a democracy, in a representative democracy, I trust their judgment a heck of a lot more than I trust my judgment. And to say that I'm going to commit their money they earned, you know, is a big, big deal. So that was the carrot, 100%. And then, of course, it drops to 90%. But please remember, we said this over and over again, $17.3 trillion in debt. Go ask the military folks that have TRICARE about promises and how they've been fulfilled. And we've said this over and over again. Remember, you can keep your plan, you can keep your doctor. So all that's sort of falling apart. But here's the difference. If it's at 90%, it'll cost us about $200 million. If it drops to 50%, it'll cost us $1 billion. And then what will happen to higher ed and K-12 and all those other priorities? So now we hear the governor is going to basically, I guess, attempt to do it unilaterally. That should be so disturbing to every single person in this chamber who believes in this very unique experience in representative democracy. I mean, things we throw around as concepts, separation of powers, the legislature, the House of Delegates, the House of Representatives. Those are reason why money bills originated in the people's house. And then just to say, because I can't get my way, I'm going to unilaterally do it, is just fundamentally wrong. And we will, not a threat, we will challenge that. We will challenge that at every turn. Because not only is the wrong policy, it's the wrong for our constitutional republic. Finally, let me get to the whole issue of compassion, because, and I truly mean this, I think the folks on the other side of the aisle truly, really believe that the compassionate thing to do is to expand Medicaid. We've heard that over and over again. And of course, they feel like they have the ethical high ground. But I'm going to challenge that here today. Conservatives over here, we're just not green eye shade people that only worry about pinching pennies. I mean, we worry every day about the welfare of people. And it's a true philosophical difference. And our feeling basically is a very simple one. We've watched the Great Society since 1964. We've watched it over and over and over to serve the very same people it purports to help. It has not done that. And the statistics are just shocking. Let me read a few of these since 1964. There are more than 46 million Americans living in poverty today, the largest number in 54 years. Over 100 million Americans received some sort of government benefit in 2013. 1 in 5 American households are on food stamps, and 1 in 8 Virginians on Medicaid already. Second, almost every major entitlement program ever created costs more than originally projected. And that's a big deal because that's what we're discussing today. And I can go to a lot of those, but let's take two, Medicare and Medicaid. The original projection for Medicare was that it would cost $12 billion annually in 1990. In 1990, Medicare actually cost $110 billion. Today it costs $500 billion. And of course, Medicaid, $238 million in the first year. It's now over $1 billion. The United States has over $124 trillion in unfunded liabilities. So that's the history. And so when you know that's true, just to keep doing it over and over again, to say you're expanding a program, to say you're compassionate, when the historical results have been very, very poor. And I want to finish with this, and I really mean this. We are a nation founded on just basic principles like freedom. We really do have confidence in people to make decisions. At some point when government is spending so much and taxing so much, not only just takes your freedom away, but it really supplants your judgment for their judgment. It really supplants their ability and their incentive to work hard, take care of their families in the way they think is best. And so that is the fundamental argument. I'm extremely comfortable with where we're at. We on this side of the aisle are very compassionate people. We are people that care very much about Virginians. And we really, to the depths of our heart, believe this would be a mistake for the people of Virginia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.